In this short little video, I'm going to talk through how you would add vectors both mathematically and graphically in VPython. So I've got a GlowScript program already opened up here, and the first thing to realize is when you're creating a vector in VPython, you do have to create it with a variable name such as a, but then you put in the components of a in parentheses, the x, y, and z, but you also need to use this keyword vector. So far, what I've created are two vectors, one named A and one named B. And how do I add them? It's real simple. I would like to give the total a name, a variable name. That's good practice. So I'll call it sum, and all I have to do is sum is equal to A plus B. We'll put the result into a quantity called sum. So let me run this program and see what it does. It apparently does nothing, and the reason why you don't see it do anything is I never asked the program to give me some output. So if I want to see the result of what sum is, what I would do is put in a print command, parentheses, and inside those parentheses put the quantity that you want to see as output. So let's take a look at the total here. Notice now when I run it, I get a little output window, and I get some brackets, and I see that the final addition vector of a plus b is 5 minus 2, 0. Alrighty, all well and good, and it's usually good to print out your math as well as make a visualization. So how would I actually visualize these vectors in VPython? That would require us to create arrows that represent A and B and the sum of the two on our screen. So let's kind of think through how to do that. I usually like to put my first vector at the origin. So let me kind of work in a little screen over here and show you the idea of a tip-to-tail addition of vectors. So I would ordinarily think about starting at the origin of my coordinate system. Okay, not very straight there, but I would start my first vector A right at the origin and its tip ending at wherever A is ending the 2, 1, 0. Okay, so A is this red vector. And then what I would do with B is I would start the B vector with its tail at the tip of A and go from there. Here's vector B. And what the sum does is it points from the beginning, the tail of the first vector, and it ends on the tip of the final vector. So there in blue is my sum vector. Okay, not a very good picture. Things aren't straight, they may not have the right components. So let's see how we would build this into a visualization window or graphics window. I'm first going to define in my code here an origin, and I'll just call it the origin. And it is a vector, it's a point, and it exists at 0, 0, 0. Okay, so my first vector A, I'm going to give it an arrow to visualize it, arrow A. And it is an object called an arrow, which basically has a pause for position, which has to be a vector, and I'll fill that in a little bit. It has an axis, which I will fill in a little bit, and it has a color, and I'll give it the color red. Color, by the way, is in itself a vector in VPython. The three components are how much red, green, and blue you want to put in. So by putting in a vector 1, 0, 0, I'm saying make this a bright red arrow. If I put in, for example, 0.6 in that first component, I'm asking for sort of dull, not super dull, but a dimmer red arrow. Anyway, let's talk through the position. the position of A is going to be at the origin. Now I'm going to say pos equals origin, giving the attribute of the position of this arrow the origin, which I've defined to be a vector earlier in the program. So all I need to say now is origin. The axis is the actual arrow itself, which is the vector A. So all I have to put in for the axis is the letter A, capital A. That's the way I've defined it. Okay, and now when I run this program, I should see kind of dull red arrow pointing along the direction that A points along. Perfect. So for B, I'm going to do the same thing, except notice for B, where I want to create it is where I want its position to be is now at the tip of A. So the attribute that positions that arrow is the pos. So I'm going to put that in as A. The actual arrow itself is the axis, which is B. And oh, let me make it green. So I'll put in 0, 1, 0. I think I'll brighten up that red arrow a little bit. And let's run this. Okay, so now I've got two arrows, and they're starting to add tip to tail. Okay, so what do I do with the last arrow, the sum arrow? Let's go back to our drawing. It starts at the origin. That's the pos. So whatever arrow object I create here, we'll call it arrow sum. The pos is again going to be the origin. The axis is going to be the actual vector, which is sum. And let me give it a blue color. Okay, let's run this and see what we get. And indeed, we get something that looks kind of similar to our kind of cheesy drawing with the paint program.